What is grief? If not love, persevering.
Do you hear that sound? It's every screenwriter in the world whispering a reverent fuck.
WandaVision. We all know what it is, Marvel's first Disney Plus show, yada yada. You're here because you want to get to the meat of things, right? It's that show that you watched weekly. If you were like me, it aired too late, so you sat up out of bed in the morning, turned on Disney Plus, and watched the shit out of that episode. If you aren't like me, you stayed up late and watched the episode in the dead of night because hell yeah, Marvel f***ing rules, and this was a refreshing new story in the ever-growing Marvel landscape. But then, that ending happened. You go on Twitter and everyone's talking about dicks. Wait, no, I mean boner. Everyone's talking about boners. But what about you? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Well, I'm here to tell you Mauricio's unfiltered thoughts. What went wrong with the WandaVision finale, in my opinion, of course. If you liked the finale, hallelujah, scream it from the mountaintops, make your own videos, and do the same if you hated the finale. Meanwhile, for me, the finale was horribly mid. It gave me Ant-Man and the Wasp, Captain Marvel flashbacks, which is disappointing because I adored the rest of the show. WandaVision is at the end of the day pretty darn excellent. It starts as a funny sitcom with something darker brewing underneath. There's multiple instances where we see Wanda or someone manipulate reality, and it's really cool. Gives you Batman Arkham Asylum vibes, you know? The show kinda peaks the episode Pietro is introduced, and not only is he technically dead, but he's the Quicksilver from the X-Men universe. Holy shit, multiverse confirmed? We'll get to that later. And so, with its second to last episode exploring Wanda's trauma, we reach a point of, wait, there's a lot of stuff that is yet to be resolved, and there's only like a 30 to 40 minute episode left. Will they be able to wrap up things well? No, the finale, while emotionally resonant, is still way too messy for me to enjoy, and that's what I want to talk about. It's a mediocre ending to an otherwise great show, and I can't even fault anyone too hard because there were a lot of issues that had to be wrestled with when working during a pandemic. I'm as bummed as this dude right here. Yeah, who is he, you're probably wondering? I don't know who he is. He's stock footage. By the way, this video is sponsored by Storyblocks. Storyblocks is an affordable online subscription service that's great for finding excellent video content and images that can help bring your stories to life without sacrificing your time or resources. Not saying this for the ad, I genuinely use Storyblocks all the time for my videos. I don't know if you've noticed, but all that random stock footage you see? Storyblocks, baby. Storyblocks has helped me out so much, guys. You should check it out too. With the unlimited all-access plan, you'll get unlimited downloads of HD stock footage, stock images, After Effects templates, overlays, and more. So go get some high-quality royalty-free images now by going to storyblocks.com/browntable or going to the link in the description. That's right, one more time, storyblocks.com/browntable or go to the link in the description to get some high-quality royalty-free images. Thank you Storyblocks for sponsoring this video. Supporting them supports the channel. And now let's talk about some Storyblocks, quite literally. We have at the very end Agatha, whose motivation is ridiculously weak. She just wants Wanda's power. So that isn't really the main theme of the show, I'd say. She just worsens Wanda's grief. That being said, it'd be cathartic for Wanda to defeat her, but there are more interesting plotlines going on, I feel. We also have Monica, who's trapped in the hex by Pietro. Monica got heavily sidelined, sadly. Maybe she'll do something story relevant in the finale? She could be tied to the main theme of the show. She sympathizes with Wanda, right? They might have a heart-to-heart? We have Hayward and his White Vision, who can definitely be tied to the theme of the story. The theme about how when people die, they truly die. Can't bring them back. This could be a teachable moment for Wanda that has potential. And then lastly, there's Wanda, Hex Vision, her children, and all of the people in the Hex. That is definitely tied to the main theme of the story. This should be interesting. And so, the show pulls this all off in the most uninteresting way possible, for the most part. Now, I don't want to sound mean, but Marvel isn't really known for being incredibly risky and creative. They're very moderate with it. Their most creative endeavors are usually covered in lots and lots of safety nets to prevent anything too outlandish from happening. I think their last truly creative moment was when they went crazy and had James Gunn make Guardians of the Galaxy. Not surprisingly, those movies are usually in people's top 5 Marvel films. And this show, it was pretty damn risky. Some people genuinely do not like the sitcom format at the beginning because it's different and weird, but for me, that shit's f***ing awesome. Inject it right into my eyeballs. It's creative and experimental, but once we headed towards the ending, it was the usual Marvel fanfare, and that was a major disappointment to me. There was another kind of ending planned, by the way, but more on that later. Agatha is kinda boring if I'm being honest. as a character, at least. Catherine Hahn makes Agatha. If there was no Catherine Hahn, Agatha would be another forgettable Marvel villain for me. That just goes to show how talented she is, because that flashback sequence did nothing for me. So since the character isn't very interesting, when we find out that her entire motivation is just to find out more about Wanda and eventually suck her powers from her, it's like, okay. The thing is, the real antagonist of WandaVision is Wanda herself. I think in another universe, in this vast multiverse, Marvel would just allow Wanda to be the protagonist, but have the protagonist be the villain of the story. That eventually has to face her traumas and face the damage she's caused as well. I actually feel like that's how WandaVision reads on paper, but that's not really what happens. Alright, so Monica at times feels like the protagonist of WandaVision, especially during the show's middle act. So what happens in the final episode? She's stuck with Pietro in one of the cringiest scenes I've ever seen in the MCU. And trust me, there's been plenty. Oh no, that's so bad! That ultimately culminates in the actual worst joke of the MCU. I think it's the most juvenile verbal joke. I could be wrong, but it's pretty bad.
Ralph Bohner?
Boner.
I'm Michael Jordan. Stop it. Get some help. McDonald's wants you to give yourself a chance to find out all the wonderful things you really can be. And so do I.
Ralph Bohner.
Boner.
Oh god. Let's sideline for a second. I think people acting like Ralph Bohner ruins the entire show need to chill out a bit. But that being said, being disappointed makes absolute sense to me, as Marvel knew exactly what they were doing when they cast Evan Peters as Quicksilver. It was to get audience reaction, to get people talking. Heck, Multiverse of Madness is right after the show, too. Shows these days, especially those that are connected to a universe, just cannot exist separately from the existence of other shows and films. And we can't just shut off our brains and ignore the fact that Evan Peters is Quicksilver in the X-Men movies. Heck, if you watch WandaVision with audio description, this happens.
In Westview, Wanda stares at the version of Pietro from the X-Men films.
The director also acting like the Pietro reveal is on the level of the Mandarin twist is wild. Just bring back Aaron Taylor Johnson as Quicksilver, and then later have it be an illusion by Agatha, or worse, have it actually be his corpse. So Agatha ends up being way more evil. Ultimately to me, it totally makes sense to be disappointed that Evan Peters is not Quicksilver, and worse, yes, he is reduced to a dick joke. White Vision and Hex Vision's discussion in the library is awesome. I love it, and it is easily one of the highlights of the entire episode. Thing is, White Vision not only doesn't die, but he escapes with Vision's memories. So technically, Vision could come back and is still alive in a way. Plus, they even hint at his humanity by having his eyes become more human. And that's so weird to me because that goes against what I'd like to think is one of the main themes of the show.
And we can't reverse death, no matter how sad it makes us.
This scene is so good. Oh, and this scene, it's so bad and so random. Like, Monica just randomly appears at this corner and then Hayward fires, and she's just already there, so she ran super fast, I guess. And then she takes these bullets for these kids, which is kind of whack. And then one of the kids catches one of the bullets, so she didn't even really have to do that. And it's not an effects problem, it just looks cheap. Like, somehow they filmed it and it just looks weird to me. I don't know. In general, I think it was a terrible idea to film the finale in the middle of the day, because the lighting is just so uninteresting. And then Darcy randomly hits Hayward's car out of nowhere? Oh, come on. Thing is, I can't even blame the director and the writers and anyone too harshly, as all of this was done because of... Yep, you might think that the show was rewritten because of the pandemic, and it was. But other things that contributed to the show were fan expectations, creators like me, and most importantly, speculation theory culture. On Fat Man Beyond, director Matt Shakman disclosed a lot of information on what happened on the show. If you checked headlines before the episode aired, by the way, you'd have found articles which stated that Matt Shakman, the director of the show, was worried the finale would disappoint fans. And first off, that's because of the pandemic. The show originally had 10 episodes, but it was trimmed to 9 for pacing, and even worse, the pandemic hit, so it had to be severely rewritten. And adding to that, fan expectations can make anyone go crazy. Originally, the show had a subplot with Monica, Darcy, the twins, and yes, Ralph Bohner stealing the Darkhold from Agatha's basement. It would also show that Scratchy the rabbit is a demon. So yeah, that explains why the rabbit was dropped, Darcy was dropped, and Ralph had such a lame ending.
Boner.
And that's a shame. Time is a genuine factor when making art, so it's a real bummer. And I feel Shakman here. Remember when I said Marvel likes to play it safe to prevent disappointing people? Because of fan expectations, the aerospace engineer that was so heavily teased was just straight up removed. Like, bro, he's just gone. There's no scene with an aerospace engineer. Pretty crazy. Ultimately, though, I gotta say, the ending of the show is this excellent, and I mean excellent, bittersweet moment with Wanda and Vision. Both realizing that they'll have to part, it nearly made me cry, and it was awesome. I think people really remember the persevering line from the penultimate episode because it didn't cut to a joke. There was no gag, no music played from a phone. It was just a straightforward, sincere moment. And the show ends like that as well, and I appreciate that a lot. I think what hurt the end, though, was the fact that nobody really acknowledged fully the pain that Wanda caused the people of Westview. They literally hadn't seen their relatives, they have children they've been separated from, and heck, Wanda literally chokes them. And in the end, they just kind of stand around all in a group. It's so weird. Remember this scene?
You described the experience of being under her mind control as excruciating, a violation.
Yeah, this scene in the show is the only scene where I kinda side with Hayward. Because yes, while Wanda is in grief, we shouldn't be making excuses for her here. There are a bunch of victims that are being mind controlled right now. Like it said, it's a violation. And that not being addressed is really weird to me.
We have your nightmares.
If you won't let us go, just let us die. Well, Wanda's the she's the villain. Then you find out that, well, Agnes is pretty terrible.
We were on the verge of greatness. We were this close.
They'll never know what you sacrificed for them.
It wouldn't change how they see me.
The people of Westview are basically a whole other character, and it'd be nice to see some closure for them as well. It's not a bad thing that they didn't add that, but I do think it would make the story a lot more effective. In the end, I wish Wanda not only came to terms with her loss, but also came to terms with the harm she's brought upon innocent people. But again, not a terrible final episode, just not a very good one. And the dip in quality is very apparent because the previous episodes were just so damn good. Thanks so much Zandre Short for the epic Itsuki Reo fan art from Interstellar Ranger Commence. It looks sublime, and if you don't know what Interstellar Ranger Commence is, it's an anime I'm making, the link is in the description. Thanks everyone for watching the video, and thank you Chads for staying with the channel and watching the video as well. Now it's time for the Patreon question of the video. Gustavo Bulgarelli asks, what's my favorite book? So here's a crazy thing. I don't really read too much. I've always been more of a visual guy. It's really weird. I've always been like, why read when I can watch movies? Like, it's so weird. I don't know. I should read more, and I do want to read more. I'll say the Monogatari light novels are pretty darn great. I think story-wise, Story by Robert McKee is really dope. I know it's one of those mandatory books you have to read in school, but I think Fahrenheit 451 is really good. I've wanted to read Dune so badly, especially because of the movie, which has now been delayed sadly, but I haven't found the time to read it, so that's a huge bummer. But yeah, if you have any book recommendations, it'd be great if you put like hashtag book recommendation in the comments so I can easily find you, just to see, you know, like what I should read or something like that. So thank you Gustavo for the question. Thank you patrons so much for supporting me. You guys are amazing, and you help me make more of this kind of content, more of the weirder kind of content too. Like, you know, there's the usual visual essay, but then like the crazier content, you know, it's possible because of you guys, so thank you so much. Now, if you don't know why I'm calling you Chads, well, the Chad Nation is what I call the subscribers of this channel. All you have to do to become a Chad is just subscribe and hit that bell notification. Now, if you didn't know, if you actually become a Chad, you will become the Scarlet Witch. That's absolutely true. You will be able to mind control everyone you want. Which is really scary. Don't follow Wanda's example. Thank you so much for watching the video, and I hope you come back to the table.